Hi everyone, this is Ali John Chaudhary, psychotherapist, and today I'm here with author Fern Schumer Chapman. And today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to stay grounded and centered during the holidays. The holidays can bring with it its share of stressors and anxiety with regards to sibling and family estrangement. And if we're not careful, these can get the best of us. So, in today's episode, we'll be discussing how we can stay grounded and centered as we move closer towards the holidays through the use of thought, emotion, and somatic based strategies, especially useful during this time of year. So, Fern, it's great to have you here.
Oh, thanks, Holly John. This actually was a requested episode by one of our viewers, and there's a peak in responses I hear every year around this time. And I hear all sorts of comments about the dreaded holidays. One woman wrote me and said, "Fall sucks. I say it every year. The holidays rub your face in estrangement." And another estranged woman reported that she wakes up crying in her sleep, devastated by her losses. Even some who choose to sever the relationship because they know it's best for them find that the holidays raise the question once again as to whether or not the cutoff was the right choice. So, grounding techniques would be extremely helpful.
And that's what we're going to get into today, especially.
Right.
So I think this is really good to be able to offer this to our viewers, right? Because we've spoken before about the holidays and we've given some practical advice in terms of interactions and things of that nature. But I think that getting into some specific psychological strategies can be especially helpful. So we're gonna talk about that, you and I, of course, today. So let's get into some cognitive strategies, right, to help us. Yeah. One thing that I like, especially that I mentioned in the support groups, is to make use of affirmations and pre-chosen mantras.
Mhm.
So something that you can start saying to yourself, especially if you're going to be going to a family function, is their behavior is about them, not me. For example, this is temporary. I'm allowed to stay in control of my energy. So really what these do is these help to interrupt old family scripts. And if you feel triggered, a good way to step out of what is happening is to tell yourself that this is an old neural pattern refiring. So whenever you do this, you're helping to drop whatever intense feeling you may have uh, by a significant percentage. And some would say maybe even just a 50 to 60% drop in terms of intensity. So that's something to
Right.
keep in mind.
So you basically grooved into your brain these old patterns of thinking. And what you're suggesting is you start slowly to change that groove. And
Exactly.
it's not easy to do, but it's necessary.
Yes. And of course, research into mindfulness has shown that if you start to objectify it and name it that way, right, stepping out of it by saying this is an old neural pattern refiring, for example, then really that emotional drop will actually make you more comfortable. So that's really, really important to know that you can still have positive effects, even though the proper change, as you say, takes time.
It's a little like watching those butterflies run past you and just being aware that they're there, but not having to grab them or get your net.
Yeah, actually, that's interesting that you say that because there's actually one of these strategies we're going to talk about is very similar to that. So another one that you can do also is called decline the invitation, right? So decline the invitation has to do when somebody tries to pull you into the old dynamic, right? Through shaming, triangulating, baiting you into a reaction, for example, right? Making passive aggressive remarks. So silently telling yourself, I see the hook, I don't have to bite, right? Again, stepping out of it and objectifying keeps you connected to the rational part of you as opposed to being completely consumed by your feelings, right?
My response to that is I see the bathroom and I have to run.
Right?
I look for the escape hatch.
That's a good one too. Yeah, that's really true. And that's really important to do that as well. Uh, so using active imagination exercises are really important. I like them because the brain experiences the same benefits of thinking and envisioning something as it does in doing it in real life. So that's really important. And another strategy that we can use is called cognitive diffusion, right? Imagining intrusive talks as text floating by on screen, like you were saying, right? Butterflies just going and going in some ways, right? Exactly. You should be nicer. They think I'm overreacting. They're judging me, right? So imagining that just floating by in some ways using your creativity and such, and that helps to, of course, focus on something else than that charge that keeps it stuck, right?
Yeah, the main thought in all this is I don't have to engage.
Yeah, yeah. And another great exercise is the three breath boundary, right? So before responding to anything provocative, taking one breath, for example, to fuel your body. Second breath, remember your intention, right? I'm here to see mom and dad, for example, or something, right? That, or I'm here simply to deliver the gift, whatever it is that you've given yourself as a goal. Third breath, choose your grounded self,
Mhm.
right? Choose from that grounded self. Very important. So this breaks fawning, placating, or defending, especially.
Right, this is what we're really talking about is what others may know as centering,
Mm-hmm.
making sure you're staying within your own being.
Yep, exactly. So you're not losing sight of what's going on around you, and you're not getting caught up in the wave, right? So that's really, really important. So that actually leads us to the next section, which is emotion-based strategies, right? So one of them that you can do is to name the emotion without the story. So in your mind, you can say to yourself, "This is anxiety. This is sadness. This is activation." So labeling decreases the amygdala's intensity in our brain. So that way, when you're naming it, you're helping yourself to be able to be more present, as you're saying.
And that's actually something that's pretty difficult for people who have not been raised with emotion labeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a practice that you have to learn.
These are all skills that sometimes we have to learn as adults that we never had as children,
Mhm.
right? And you wish you'd have this when you're growing up, right? You'd be a whole different person, but it's never too late to learn, is what I always say to people, you know?
It's actually necessary to learn.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Life is a learning process. So, second point we can work on is what's called micro boundaries when it comes to emotional strategies and such, right? Small stealth boundaries that don't escalate the situation. Like you were saying earlier, right? Going to the bathroom, for example. I'll be back in a second, right? I'm going to go grab a drink. I'm going to step outside for some air. So you control exposure without needing a big confrontation. You get to decide what you do with your body.
All right, that's the emotional hatch that we've been talking about in other videos.
Yeah. Yeah,
Escape
exactly.
hatch.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really, really important, right? Plan an exit strategy. Even if it's a micro exit, right? You can do something else that will actually help to defuse that. And that's really, really important. And you certainly can get creative with that as well. I've even read that some people, what they do is they actually have somebody fake an emergency in some ways. Could you phone me and tell me about this so that way that can be my pretext? So in some cases, if it goes from bad to worse, then there can be some cues that you can manage with some people as well to do that, just in case.
I
So,
think you should rely on yourself.
well, it's better to work on yourself to improve your own situation, but it doesn't hurt to have other
Yeah.
backups just in case, as we said, right? So, number three is inner adult versus inner child check in. So, asking yourself quietly, what part of me is activated right now? So that's a really good question because when you're doing that, you're able to name it, right? You're objectifying, you're stepping outside of it. What part of me is being triggered right now? What does that younger part need? That's another question you can ask, right? Does it need reassurance, permission to leave, or a reminder that you're not trapped like you once were? Because a lot of times we regress back into some of these, right? Back into our old family roles.
Especially for people with post-traumatic stress disorder, you
Yes.
constantly have to ask yourself, who am I talking to? How old am I? Where am I?
Yep.
Because emotional flashbacks make it very confusing as to what you're reacting to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So very important, of course, to be able to objectify, right? Step out of it and being able to, of course, work with it in those ways, as we said. So now we can get into some somatic based strategies, which are body based strategies. I think these are important as well, right? To help to appease our nervous system. So a good one that we can do is what's called the feet plus breath reset.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting one because that's 20 to 30 seconds of that of a practice that you can do even in a room with many people, for example. So where you might feel your feet press into the floor is step one with this. So basically just allowing your feet, your attention to come to your feet, for example, as opposed to being, say, in your chest or your stomach area, where a lot of times it's where we feel our feelings, right? And the next part of it is that once you feel your feet press into the floor, you inhale through your nose for 4 seconds and exhale through your mouth for six. So when you're doing a slow exhale, what you're doing is you're helping to relax the body, right?
Well, you're doing more than that. You're actually giving more oxygen to the brain so you can think more clearly. One
Yep,
of the problems is when you become stressed and anxious, you start to breathe more shallowly, and then you're not thinking clearly.
that's right. That's exactly right. And learning to slightly relax your jaw, of course, when you're doing this, this interrupts the sympathetic activation. So and it helps to bring you back into your body. Oftentimes our jaws will clench, we'll have these types of reactions. So again, appeasing our jaws, letting our bodies go into some relaxation states or some behaviors that can induce relaxation like this is very important. So second one is what's called shielding stance, right? And this is when you notice that things start to escalate with your sibling or that your sibling throws subtle jabs at you. Basically, what you can do is turn your body 15 to 30 degrees away in a non-confrontational way. And
I'm
but
practicing.
yeah, exactly. But it's a way to be protective, really, when you're doing this. And when you're keeping one foot pointed towards an exit or a neutral space, what this does is this prevents your nervous system from feeling trapped. So really paying attention to, okay, my foot's facing the door, my foot's facing the exit, I'm turned against or a little bit slightly away. So that way that helps that you're not facing them and such. So that can also have an appeasing effect on the body as well when you're aware of that.
That one I didn't know, but I am going to be using it.
Yeah, yeah. A couple more that we have is a cold water interrupt. Maybe you've done this before. I've done it before where I had to splash cold water on my face or my wrists or cheeks. So this is a great example of saying that you have to excuse yourself to go to the washroom. This is a great way to, of course, help to regulate emotional intensity when it comes to that. And yeah, so that's a common one, but that's also important to mention because it can help with the change in temperature in the water, especially. And another one that's helpful is a weighted object in your pocket, a stone, a small metal object, or anything with weight that helps to orient your body when you're dissociating or spinning in thought, especially, right? So a small stone, a little memento that you have that you can hold on to. I had somebody tell me that they had like these little figurines that they kept in their pocket, just as a pocket weight for them, and that they would touch that figurine as a way to appease their nervous system. So this is very helpful as well, just to remind yourself that this can ground your body to give you more of a sense of peace when you're around contentious siblings.
Right. That becomes like a touchstone for staying in yourself and and in the conversation, but not being triggered. Yeah, I think those are really interesting. Some of them I have not used. So
So these are very important for our viewers. So I think this is good for us. I think for today, when it comes to having some points that people can walk away with, especially, right? So you have these different points that you can use and take from our lists, of course, that are cognitive strategies, emotion-based strategies, and somatic-based strategies. See which ones speak to you. And I'm certain that once you put some into practice, dear viewers, you're going to find that it can make a difference, especially if you're getting together with some people during the holidays that might prove to be a challenge, especially to your peace of mind.
right.
So, all right, friend, it's been great to have you here again. So let's talk about resources. Tell me a little bit about some resources that you're working on right now.
Actually, I have a new resource, and I'm working with an artist, and she and I are going to be doing a workshop on using collaging to address alienation. And for those who are interested in it, there's a website called copingwithfamilyalienation.com, and you can learn about some of these workshops and what we're trying to do. It's going to be really interesting because collaging can do much of what you're talking about as well in terms of processing the pain of estrangement.
Absolutely, and that's very, very important for people to have as strategies and such. So, uh, my strategies also that are important for our viewers, of course, are the sibling estrangement support group on Zoom. It's every couple of weeks. Very, very important for people. to have a place where they can be in real time and exchange in a safe environment where they can feel supported and uplifted and such. And there's the workshops I'm working on reducing rumination with a very interesting tool that's cutting edge that I've been able to help to bring to the estrangement community. And of course, there's navigating the stages of grief with sibling estrangement, which is an ongoing workshop on the stages that we all go through when we go through sibling estrangement and how to reclaim ourselves ultimately to have that sense of empowerment for us. So if you want to dive deeper, these are the workshops that are especially available, and there's nothing else out there like this. So I think this is especially important what you're offering, Fern, what I'm offering for our viewers, so that way people can have places to go to empower themselves amidst their sibling estrangement. So Fern, this has been a great episode. I'm so happy that we've had a chance to talk about all this. So thank you again for doing this, and I especially look forward to seeing you again in the new year.
Yes, I do too.
All right, well, you take care, and we'll talk again soon.
Okay.
Thanks.